Okay, here's my second episode of DAWless for cheap. This episode is all about cables, just how I connect all this equipment here. The first episode, briefly, was just about how I acquired this equipment and how much I paid for it. I've got a very limited budget in terms of buying hardware, as you can probably see. All of this stuff isn't really brand new. Well, I bought it all secondhand, so it's not kind of been out a few years. But I think it's a really good setup. So I'm just going to explain how all the cables work. So this is the brains of the operation, starting with the how I connect the SP404A, the Roland sampler here. So I take the cable out here, which is the MIDI cable out, and that goes into the MIDI in there. The next one along is my iPad. I did explain in the first video how iPads are really great pieces of equipment. You can get them cheap. I paid £60 for this one. And how that works is I've got the two MIDI out channels here feed directly into the iPad here, and they do that via this cable. Now, so it comes in there, and this cable here is from a power supply, and that feeds into this Apple connector cable. Now, here's where I tried to kind of do things on a bit of a budget, and it didn't work out. So I bought two of these previously from Amazon, and they were basically third-party connector kits. They've got like a lightning port there and a USB port there. I don't know if you can see that. And the description said that they are compatible with MIDI keyboards and things like that. And the problem is they are not. I think they're compatible to some extent, but when you're connecting something like this to the iPad, it requires an external power supply. And what I found with these ones is, for some reason, when you plug an external power supply in here, the iPad doesn't like it. I think they've set it up so that they reject these third-party systems. Anyway, so I went from paying about £10 for a couple of these. I will be returning this second one again. I returned the first one to £40 for that cable. I just find it a lot of money, and that's probably why I haven't completely bought into the whole iPad computer system setup. Anyway, so that's that, and that feeds into there. That's two channels. And how that works is, by the way, so I've got two synths running here. Two soft synths running on, one's channel 3, and sorry, MIDI receiving on MIDI 3, and the other one is receiving on MIDI 4. So when I send information here, it goes into there. The fourth item there, which is the Korg Volca. There we go, Korg Volca bass. I use the through MIDI cable here that comes out there. It goes in there, and basically I've got that so it's not playing notes. The way I've set that up is I don't send MIDI notes to that channel. I've turned out so that any MIDI notes from here aren't received by here, basically by selecting channel 16, so nothing gets through there. But when I press play here, it starts the sequence, and the sequence is in sync with this. And I've done that deliberately because the way the Volca bass works, it tries to emulate the kind of the TB303 kind of bass line, and you've got things like slide and accents and things like that you wouldn't have control over on the circuit tracks. There we go. The other thing I've done here, I've taken, well, let's have a quick look at the audio. So the audio from this goes out to this little thing here, which is a nice little thing actually. It's called a Micromix Mix 600. Now I've got a couple. I've previously bought. Let me just grab it from behind here. And these have their uses, by the way. I've had a couple of things like this before, and definitely I still use them for certain things. It's a similar type of mixer, but they take 1/4-inch jacks, and also each stereo. So it's got basically got 4 stereo inputs, and each one requires you to move the left and right channel separately there, which is fine. But this one takes 1/4-inch stereo jacks, not mono jacks like the other one, which means you can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stereo inputs, which is fantastic, really. You got your output there and a little power supply. Brilliant. So it keeps everything really compact. Probably a tiny bit noisy, but I'm not bothered about that. Anyway, so the audio from here goes into there, the audio from here goes into there, the audio from here goes into there. But the Korg one, the audio out from here, I send it back to the audio inputs on the circuit tracks. And what that means is you can apply effects to your Korg sounds through here. You put your Korg through here, and you can apply effects to it using your effects channels here. So you do that. I put it in through. It comes in through MIDI channel. These are classed as MIDI 1 and 2, and it's 1, 2. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's those two there that determine how much of the kind of signal, how much you apply your effects. I think it's those two anyway. I'll probably get confused. I'll know it when I turn it on. And there you go. So that's how I've set my system up. It all works really well. In the next episode, I'm going to be explaining how these two work together really well. In fact, just to briefly explain, the SP404 Roland is a bit of a kind of mythical beast, if you like. I mean, it's been around for a good few years, but a lot of people really, really love them. They're quite dear in a lot of people's hearts. And a lot of people just like to work in the SP404 itself. For me, I'm not so keen. I know a lot of people do really well out of it, some big DJs. But it really comes into its own, I think, when you connect it to the circuit tracks. It becomes really easy to work with. In fact, that's why I've stuck with the SP404A rather than go down the route of thinking about getting an SP404 Mark II. And by the way, I think an SP404 Mark II looked really good. But for me, this just works. Hope to see you next time when I show you a little bit more. I'm going to work through these and just show you how it all works. Thank you very much.